أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening to this video. Welcome to today's column of Hadith Daily. Thank you for coming. Jazakumullahu khairan. Today we shall be looking at some stories of the Sahaba al-Ikram. How do they live their life? What are the things they do that makes them special? And what are we Muslims of today supposed to learn from them to have a great reward from Allah, just like they had in their own days? So without wasting much of our time, let's get to today's Hadith. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The first story comprises of the dying Sahaba. Sahaba dying tasty for others. Sahaba dying tasty for others. Hadith Abu Jam bin Huzaifa Radiyallahu anhu narrates, during the battle of Yarmouk, I went out in search of my cousin, who was in the forefront of the fight. I also took some water with me for him. I found him in the very thick of the battle, in the last throes of death. I found him in the very thick of the battle, in the last throes of death. I advanced to help him with the little water I had. But soon another sorely wounded soldier beside him gave a groan, and my cousin averted his face and beckoned to me to take the water to that person first. My cousin averted his face and beckoned to me to take the water to that person first. I went to this other person with the water. It turned out to be Hisham ibn Abil As radiyallahu anhu. Hisham bin Abil As radiyallahu anhu. But I had hardly reached him when there was heard the groan of yet another person lying not far from Hisham. Lying not far from Hisham bin Abil Has radiyallahu anhu. Hisham also motioned to me to take the water to the next person. Hisham also motioned to me to take the water to the next person. Alas, before I could approach this person, he had breathed his last breath. Before I could approach this person, he had breathed his last breath. I made all haste back to Hisham and found him dead as well. I made all haste back to Hisham and found him dead as well. Thereupon, I hurried as fast as I could to my cousin. And lo, in the meantime, he had also joined the two others. In the meantime, he has also joined the two others. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Many an incident of such self-denial and heroic sacrifice is recorded in the books of Hadith. This is the last word in self-sacrifice. This is the last type of self-sacrifice. And each dying person should forego slaking his own taste in favor of his other needy brother. taking his own taste in favor of the other needy brother. May Allah bless their souls with his choicest favor and sacrifice for others, even at the time of death, when a person has seldom the sense of to make good choice. So, what is this hadith telling us? This is the story of the Sahaba. Abu Jam bin Huzaifa, one of the Sahabas, had his cousin among those who are fighting the Battle of Yarmouk. The Battle of Yarmouk was the battle between the Eastern Greek and the Muslims. So during this period, Abu Jam took water to his cousin, who is one of those fighting the war. When he got there, he found his cousin that he is already wounded, almost dying. So he wanted to offer him water so that it could be a form of relief. But as soon as he is approaching to give him the water, he heard the groan, the shout of another Sahaba beside him, who also needed the water. The dying cousin, instead of taking the water, referred Abu Jam to take the water to the next person first. He referred him to take the water to the next person first before he could take the water. But on getting there, the next person was Isham bin Habil. As he was approaching him with the water, Isham also had the groan of another person, not very far from him. He also motioned him to take the water to the last person. As Abu Jam was approaching the last person, he discovered that this man had died. He has passed away. He rushed back to Hisham to give him the water, but Hisham has also passed away. And he also rushed back to his cousin to give him the water. In short, his cousin has also passed away. Imagine this level of sacrifice. Even at the point of death, the Sahabas care for one another more than they care for themselves. They care for others more than they care about themselves. Because at the point of death, the highest reach on the battlefield at that point is to get water to drink, to sustain themselves, to save his own life. But even at this point, the Abu Jam cousin was ready to sacrifice the water that could save him for another Sahaba. Imagine that kind of sacrifice. This is the way the Sahabas live their life. Sacrifice for other Muslims. They see Islam, they see their Muslim brothers as their own brothers. They care for each other to the highest realm of life. So, this is a very great sacrifice among the Sahabas, which the Muslims of today are also supposed to emulate. To love your brother. When you're saying love your brother the way you love yourself, do to others what you can, what you will do to yourself. It's not just by the mouth, it's not just by asking how are you. It's genuine feelings for one another. Genuine care about your brother. What you can do to yourself is what you should do to your brother. What you can offer to yourself is what you should offer to your Muslim brothers. Let's look at another hadith in this same direction. This hadith was reported by Hadith ibn Umar. Umar radiallahu anhu says, one of the Sahaba received a goat's head. One of the Sahaba received a goat's head as a present. One of the Sahaba received a goat's head as a present. On receiving this present, he thought of a neighbor who had a larger family. He thought of a neighbor who had a larger family and was in greater need of it than himself. He presented this goat head to the neighbor. This neighbor, on receiving this goat head, he also think of another neighbor who will be needing this goat head more than himself, and sent this present to him as well. On receiving this brother also recollected yet another person whom he considered even more deserving than himself, and he sent this head to him. The goat head is thus said to have changed hands not less than 7 times. The goat head is said to have changed hands not less than 7 times, and at last came back to the original person. From whom the circulation had begun. The goat head changed hands up to 7 times at least, and later came back to the original person from whom the circulation had begun. From time to time, we must have been hearing how poor most of the Sahabas are. These are the people that left their houses, that left their wealth, that left their family to follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So at the time of following Rasulullah, most of them are poor. They don't have anything. Some barely have 2 clothes to wear, because some of them, the clothes they have on when they receive Islam is the last thing they had when they left their family. Because then, as at that period, anybody that received Islam will be punished by the Mecca, by the elites in the Mecca. So most of them, when they received Islam, they flee to Medina. So when they got to Medina, most of them don't have anything. They don't have wealth. But at this period, goat's head is seen as a big deal, a very big presence that could be used to cook for a family, that could be enjoyed within the family. But yet, a poor Sahaba received it, sent it to another one received it, think of a better person that could need it more, send it to him. Look at the sacrifice. This is the kind of sacrifice that Muslims are supposed to do within themselves. Care for your brother the way you care for yourself. The Sahabas even care for them, for themselves, for their brothers more than they cared about themselves. Imagine the story of a dying Sahaba who could not quench his own taste for water just because he is hearing the groan of another dying person beside him. This is the highest level of sacrifice which Muslims of those days have. And this is the same level that we Muslims are supposed to emulate. We're supposed to love ourselves. We're supposed to think about how to make ourselves better. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all our efforts in the right direction to please Him. May Allah make everything we do to be in accordance to the way He expected us to do it, in order to meet His favor and mercy in the day of Qiyamah. This is where we shall be stopping from today. As usual, thanks for listening, and Jazakumullah khairan. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please kindly do. And if you have subscribed already, please help us to like the video and share it. It will help a lot. It will help the channel to grow in a lot of ways. Share it to other Muslims so that they can learn from the ways of the prophets, and it will be a form of sadaqah sadaqatul jariyah to you who share it. Because the moment you are acting on it, you will be rewarded. May Allah be pleased with us. And may Allah make everything we do to meet His acceptance. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ma'asalam.